And let's wrap things up with our movie review.
Sounds like a
And
plan.
and this week we are, this month I guess we've dedicated to stop motion uh, stop motion films or films that utilize stop motion.
Correct. Yeah.
And so this week we watched King Kong from 1933.
Love this movie.
Just a quick synopsis: actress Ann Darrow and director Carl Denham travel to the Indian Ocean to do location shots for Denham's new jungle movie. Along the way, the actress falls and meets and falls for rugged first mate John Driscoll. Upon arriving at a mysterious island, Anne is taken hostage by natives who prepare her as a sacrifice to the enormous ape Kong, who rules over their jungle. But when Anne is rescued and Kong is captured, the real trouble begins.
Yeah. So a quick side note on this movie.
Mm-hmm.
The when you remember the arcade game Donkey Kong, right?
Yeah.
Um, so when Nintendo put that game out, there was a huge lawsuit from Universal concerning it. It's like, oh, you're stealing our
IP.
intellectual property, and so they went through this whole court case, and it turned out that Universal never owned the rights to King Kong, and because they couldn't figure out who actually owned the rights to King Kong, because it wasn't Universal, it wasn't Radio Pictures. So Nintendo won the court case because they couldn't figure out who owned the rights to King Kong. So they were able. So that's how like Donkey Kong was allowed to stick around, because that was kind of
right, yeah.
That was Nintendo's inspiration of Donkey Kong was King Kong.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that this movie was an inspiration to Godzilla as well. You see a lot of the
Right.
a lot of the so. Anyways, to getting back to the actual film,
because Godzilla was definitely a post World War II creation. So, and this movie came out prior to that, so it's only logical.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
so, well, why don't you give some of your thoughts about the movie, like what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it?
I remember watching this a few times before as as a kid and whatnot, and not really appreciating it. But now as an adult and watching it, I am absolutely floored by what they were able to accomplish back then.
This movie is almost 90 years old.
Exactly. 90 years old, and like it's like the technical wizardry in creating this movie was simply fantastic. Um, especially where a lot, where they had to try and make it seamless, kind of transitions from like, when the actors would had to like react to like being scooped up to like them, doing like the whole stop motion stuff and having to react to having to react to a giant gorilla, but then it's not really there. It's just like, but then still making it seem seamless. I think was really great. The story was pretty good as well. Um, and I did see the remake that Peter Jackson did in 2005, I believe it was.
Yeah, there's been several remakes of this movie. There was one from like the 70s,
but then
I believe.
But the Peter Jackson one stayed true more to the 1933 premise. With a few liberties taken here and there. Um, but I think just on the whole, I think this is a great movie. The story was really great. I really enjoyed Faye Ray's performance. The actress,
she was great.
Yeah, the lead, the female lead. I thought she did a great performance. I liked Robert Armstrong, who plays Carl Denham, the picture producer. I liked his character as well. Because even though he was like this seemingly like money grubbing Hollywood type, he was likable.
Yeah, and it's when he met um, Fay Ray's character,
Hmm.
it's like because he was looking for, I think because he was having a hard time finding the female character for the movie that he was going to be shooting,
Right.
because like, it's like nobody wants to go to some you know who knows where jungle to do a film, because especially it's a dangerous thing. And apparently, I guess when I was looking up information about the film, that there at that time that there were a lot of people that would do the this kind of guerrilla jungle footage, and kind of like of an explorer or scientist exploring the jungle and something happening. That was actually a very popular, whether it be a short film or whatnot at that time.
Mm. Oh yeah, so it's
For
becoming like a bit of a genre.
right, yeah, so that was kind of like, so for Carl Denham to be doing that, it wasn't that was like, oh, that's people do that. That was a popular film trope at the time.
Hmm.
And so he was having a hard time finding the female lead, and so he was starting to look at like you kind of like these rescue shelters, because it was it's depression, so there's a lot of people that he was trying to find anybody that like was kind of down on their luck, but he needed to find someone that was down on their luck and pretty. So
Right.
and he encounters Faye Ray's character, and he's kind of giving her food and all this stuff, and it's like, and she's kind of skeptical at first, because it's like, why are you doing all this? It's like, oh, no, it's strictly on the level. There's no, it's all I need to do is just kind of do
Right.
this. It's all
It's
business
like
with me.
yeah,
Kind
it's
of
like
like
it
there
was
was no
yeah, because
casting
like
couch. She had to
she was
do it.
afraid it was gonna be like one of those Weinstein situations.
Yeah. So it's
Um, but yeah, but he immediately assuages her of her fears. Like, no, 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 this is completely on the level. I'm just, I just need a female lead. And I think you're perfect. And so
in that sense, I think, because, well, part of me thing is like, I don't think Carl Denham knew exactly what he was getting into, because he was, even he said like he was kind of going there based off of like the legend and rumor about this
right,
island.
yeah, because he
So
could
I
have
don't
like they
think
could have gone to the coordinates, but then like there could have been nothing.
right. And so I think part of it is like, because people say like, oh, well, he was kind of still deceiving all these people. It's like, I don't really think that that was the case. I mean, you could, sure, you could make that case, but I don't think he fully expected to know what was going on there. So he figured it
Right,
was just like,
right.
oh, it's
Because
gonna
like
be
yeah, he
like
was
any other
expecting like some like
jungle.
idyllic tropic location. He didn't necessarily think that he was gonna run into King Kong or dinosaurs or what have you.
Yeah, because he ended up
He
like
just wanted
losing.
to go someplace that no one else has been. So I'm sure like all of the typical like kind of jungle locations have been used up, and it's like oh well that's like in Chile or that's in Venezuela or that's that's in Africa or whatever. So I'm pretty yeah.
And
So I'm
no one had been to Skull Island, so it's like
exactly
it now, because he's looking like, I want as many people coming to my film to see it, and it's like, this is gonna be like, oh, no one's been here before, let's go see what he's shot, like. And it's more of an intrigue, not, and obviously he had heard the myth of Kong, but nobody knew exactly what it was. They didn't think it was some giant gorilla.
right. They just thought it was yeah. They initially thought it was like some sort of deity or like a great spirit of the native people, and then all of a sudden they find out that it's this gigantic gorilla.
Yeah. And so, like I said, I actually kind of like, I think Carl Denham, he was a good guy that was kind of, but he was out for like, he was trying to just make the best picture that he could,
Right.
and not, I
Yeah,
think
and I mean,
he,
after like after they capture Kong and everything, and after he's like, oh, the people pay like a fortune to see this. He didn't, and he immediately made all of the ship's crew partners in this endeavor. Instead of just
Yeah,
saying
that's the other thing.
saying like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be rich. It's like, it's like, well, no, like these guys like helped me, capture a Kong. So it's like, yeah, it's like, it's like, we're gonna make a fortune, boys. So he just
Yeah,
wasn't thinking about himself, which is
that's
rare.
actually, yeah. We kind of forget that part, but yeah, it wasn't like, oh, like, well, screw these people. I'm just gonna, it's all about me. He's like, no,
Mm-hmm.
he's like, no, we all fought this thing together. We're gonna make money off of it, all of us.
Mm-hmm.
That's that's pretty, because he didn't have to do that.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
could
He
have just
didn't have to do that. He could have just
he could
he
have
could
just
have just
paid
made
them a
it,
lump
all
sum,
about
and
him.
yeah, he could have just paid them a lump sum, and it's like, send them on their way.
Exactly. I guess the only
And
thing I didn't really like is, um, I guess like, they like, I think what the remake, the Peter Jackson remake does well is there's a moment where like you see Kong like interacting with the female lead. Can't remember if they use the same names, but basically the Ann Darrow, in Peter Jackson's King Kong, like there was a moment where there was almost like a kind of a bonding scene in there, where it was more like she was like trying to get on his good side so that she could eventually like slip away. But in I don't think in the 33 version there was something like that. It was just like he like just took her back to like his lair or whatever, and which is like kind of like kind of treating her like a doll or whatever.
right, I think because you see more of the affection coming from Kong to
Right.
Anne,
Mm-hmm.
which is, you think is a little bit unusual, because like
Mm-hmm.
apparently they've had all these other sacrifices that he would
Right.
probably, I don't know if he just ate them or what. Um, but with her, like, for some reason, Kong liked her,
Right.
and
Yeah. He
which
was like,
was
yeah. He
trying to.
somehow, yeah. For some reason, she was able to imprint onto Kong more than like these the other sacrifices prior. Um, so it didn't make sense to me why he would be so fixated on her. I mean, other than the fact that all the previous sacrifices were of the native girls, of the native women, and they were all and like and she was like the first white woman.
Racist. He's a racist. That's
Yeah,
why.
he's a racist, or he's just the typical black man. He gets what It's like it's the typical black guy move is like you get with a black girl, you have a baby, and then and then you kind of get established, and then as soon as a white girl comes into the picture, you drop your ex.
What is he, O.J. Simpson?
I know, yeah, but
Oh man.
yeah, because I remember back in the day, people were or like a lot of when I started getting into films, and I was talking to other people who were like getting into films, and they presented me this theory about how King Kong is actually about race mixing.
Okay.
It's about society's like aversion to race mixing. It's like about like a black man, Kong getting with a white woman, and how society reacts to it, which is badly, and it ends up in the death of the black man. Which you know, at the time I was
That
like, huh, that's pretty interesting. But then now that I'm an adult, like
that's a
that's
huge.
retarded.
That's like, it's like, that's a huge stretch.
Yeah,
Like,
that is a
the rubber band
huge
is
stretch.
breaking at that point.
What was it?
The rubber band is breaking at that point,
Yeah.
making an actual leap. It's like, come on. To me, this is more of like, it is kind of, in a sense, a monster movie where it's like, um, it's just like this enigmatic creature that no one really knows anything about.
Mhm.
Like I said, where I kind of compare this to, like, where Godzilla took a lot of inspiration. The people who made Godzilla probably had a lot of inspiration based off of King Kong, as did many filmmakers at the time.
Mhm.
And this is what kind of created the giant monster movies,
Right.
or what they call. I think they call them like kaiju films.
Oh yeah, in Japan. Yeah, in Japan.
Yeah, but uh, yeah, like I said, that's the point where it's like you're thinking too hard at that point about
Right,
the
I
film.
know. It's like, yeah, you're thinking too deeply, about this movie. It's like, and
I guarantee that was not on any of the minds of any of the actors, directors, or writers
yeah,
of the film.
yeah, this original King Kong, yeah, it was like, yeah, it was nowhere near what they were thinking about. They were just trying to make, a really good movie or entertaining movie about, this adventure that these people go on that, they have to, and they go against. It's basically man versus nature. It's particularly prehistoric
Yeah,
nature because they're dealing with
right,
dinosaurs. They're dealing with these this strange this abnormally large a gorilla.
right.
So it's literally man versus nature.
Well, the other thing, about this too is because what we were talking about with like the jungle movies that was kind of a genre,
Mm-hmm.
and usually like you'll have like a genre that's like pretty popular, so people kind of like try to recreate that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this based off of that knowledge, the thing is like this movie was kind of like not necessarily poking fun at that, but it was a take on that genre, but it was doing something different with it, where it's like it's kind of like a film within a film in a way,
Oh, that's
uh,
right.
and
So you're saying
which
that
may
they
be
were
the
trying to be
first,
subversive.
yeah, and um, exactly, and so I
Yeah, but
see
not in
it
that
more
Ryan
from
Johnson
that.
subversive way.
God, we're not going that direction, Andy. We're not going that direction today, Andy. I want to end on a good note. I don't want to end up
All
pissed
right,
off.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, but yeah, like I said, I like the film. The what they did, uh, cinematography wise, is just this movie's almost
Yeah, it's
90 years
remarkable.
old.
It's absolutely remarkable.
It looks fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and this, I would have loved to have seen the reaction of people in 1933
Oh
watching this for the
yeah.
very
Mm-hmm.
first time. I would have, because I imagine it's like they were probably blown away because nothing like this had been done before.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. This was not only was this a revolutionary film, but this film was such an inspiration to so many other filmmakers of that time and future filmmakers. I mean, Peter Jackson, that was what he has admitted. This is one of the films that inspired him to be a film guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even some like like lower tier film guys, like some of the people that run the Cinemasker YouTube channel, James Rolfe, he says like, yeah, King Kong is one of his favorite films, and it inspired him. Like he fell in love with like this type of film, and it's also why he loves Godzilla and all these things, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, so it's inspired many people, which makes it. And this is a film that uh, I think deserves a lot of credit, a lot of praise. It was a good story. Sure, there was some missing elements, and I don't know if like more gets revealed in the sequel to this, which I think is Son of Kong or something. I forget what the sequel's title is.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but
Son of Kong.
yeah, and so there's some elements missing, but the story was good. The cinematography was fantastic. The music was great. The acting was great. I love this film. I've probably seen it about a handful of times now, and there's more and more that I catch from it, and I love it.
Cool. All right. Yeah, let's give our ratings.
I'm gonna give it a 4, just because like I said, I agree with you that the connection between Andero and Kong, like the affection that he has for her, we're missing a piece
Right.
definitely in
Yeah. There's a
this.
step. There's a step missing. For sure.
And I bet you that's the reason why. Peter Jackson put that in his film because he felt like that too was probably missing. It's like let's
Yeah. Thinking about it, yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
and because I think he felt like because he's a guy that cares about like these old films. I mean, we watched his World War One documentary. And that was a huge labor of love, and you could tell how much he
Right. Yeah.
loved that. So
Yeah.
I feel he's doing the same thing with when he did his version of King Kong. It's like there's one. If I could change one thing, I not take anything away. I'm going to add something to it that's going to give it like a little bit more dimension to like something I felt was missing because he cared about the film. It's like let me add this, and I bet you that's why he did it. So in that case, but like I said, all the things I just said, cinematography, like that was 90 years ago almost, and look at what they did, and it looks to this day, I think it looks great, and just thinking like because they did it back then,
Mm,
wow.
yeah.
You have
Absolutely.
a great
Absolutely.
soundtrack. Kept you,
Yeah.
the acting was fantastic. I liked all the characters. Um, I was, I'm always on the edge of my seat watching it. I just think it's great.
All right. I'm gonna give it a 3.5. Um, I'm knocking it just a half a point less than you because um, I I felt that there's a inconsistency in the look of Kong, particularly from the first reveal. Like I think when you see like the big animatronic one, he's like he has a more friendlier face as opposed to when it transitions to like the stop motion stuff where it has like more of like a
Right.
typical angrier like gorilla face.
Yeah, the animatronic, it looks like he has this like weird Cheshire grin on his. He
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
looks like
yeah.
a
It
pervert.
like
He looks
there's
like
like
a
too
pervert
much.
in that.
There's almost like this too like human quality to the face.
He kind of looked like a little bit of a pervert in the animatronic, like
Yeah,
the
yeah, with
big.
a big grin. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So I'm just gonna knock it a half point step. I'm gonna knock it a half step from your score for that, and also because the kind of the missing step that that we talked
yeah.
about this film. Um, so yeah, that'll do it for our review. Robert gives it a 4. I give it a 3.5. It's definitely a movie to watch just to see the achievement that they were able to uh, do back then. Again, this movie is almost 90 years old. Um,
This is revolutionary film
yeah,
right here.
this was a revolutionary film.